What's going on, guys? It's Justin from Push and Profit. Hope you're having a beautiful day today. Now, this video is a lot different from most of the content I have on my channel, simply just because one, I'm recording this at night. Usually you guys don't catch me on a quiet night, but I wanted to just take the opportunity to kind of share you guys what I think one of the best investments you can make in your entire life. And I think it's going to be a little bit controversial because some people may not agree, especially individuals who are younger. But with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about it. I'm just going to go straight to the point. The best investment that you can make is purchasing property. Right now, some individuals may just watch that and then leave the video, but if you want to know why, then definitely continue watching this video to the very end. Right now, when I say why individuals may not agree is because when I was first looking to purchase my first property, I went on YouTube, of course, and I looked at individuals in their 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, and I was trying to see what was their thoughts and experiences on purchasing a property. And to be honest, a lot of the content on YouTube talked about home ownership in a negative way. And it almost swayed me away from purchasing my property, but luckily I did have great mentors out there. Shout out Orlando Minor. But with that being said, I want to kind of dive into some of the reasons individuals don't like purchasing property and why I think they're wrong about it, right? So one of the first things I saw on YouTube when individuals kind of just talked over purchasing a property and how they felt after is that there's a lot of maintenance, right? And also everything is on you. For example, when you are renting, if you have a lawn or anything, you most likely won't have to really take care of that. Most of the time, the property management or the landlord, they're going to go ahead and handle that. And as far as, let's say something breaks down in the house, let's say the AC unit breaks down in the middle of the hottest summer, you could simply just call up your landlord or call the property manager, whichever, and they'll, have someone come in and fix that. Or if you're in like a apartment complex, the maintenance guy is going to come there and fix that for you, right? Now, when it comes to, home ownership, that's not the case, right? When you have, a lawn to take care of, that's something that's your responsibility to take care of that lawn, keep it upkept. And then also if something breaks down like the AC unit, that's thousands of dollars you have to pour in. So I definitely understand that, things do fall on you. But I mean, I think there's really just solutions for everything. When it comes down to mowing your lawn or anything like that, you could honestly just outsource that. It's really not that expensive to do that. Or you could simply just put in, the 30 minutes it takes to do that. And as far as, things breaking down, that is going to happen. One thing I definitely recommend is obviously getting an inspection, and talk to individuals who know a little bit more in that area. For example, when I was purchasing my property, luckily I was surrounded with individuals who knew a little bit more about real estate, and they told me one of the properties that I ended up getting had a brand new water heater, brand new AC unit put in. So things like that, looking out for those things are really going to help you out. Now, another reason individuals, especially young individuals, dislike home ownership is simply just because of the idea that home ownership ties you down. People think that if you get this mortgage, you're locked down for 30 years or 15 years, whatever type of loan you do, and you simply just can't move. And people always bring up the idea, oh man, I would love to travel, or what if I get a job somewhere else, now I can't take that opportunity, and having a house is like putting an anchor on my ankle and I'm stuck there. And that's really not the case. I don't know why people always see it that way. For example, you could honestly sell the house. Of course, selling houses is not as liquid as selling a stock where it's just a click of a button, but it's definitely an option. Or you could simply just rent out that property and then go to the next place. So it's definitely a solution for everything. So those were the two main concepts or just ideas that came out with individuals not satisfied with home ownership. But now I want to talk about all the pros and why this is probably one of the best things you can do, regardless if you're young or if you're older, and just kind of talk about it. So one of the things that I really disliked about when I used to pay rent, and I didn't pay rent that often in my life. I did live with my mom for a while, and then when I was 22, 23ish, I did move out with a girlfriend to ex-girlfriend to Tallahassee, and then I also moved in with a roommate who worked at the bank at the time, at the bank I used to work at. And every single time that I paid rent, the only thing that I thought of is, man, this money is just going to waste. I'm just throwing money away. Now, of course, obviously, you're paying to live somewhere, but ideally, I just felt like I was throwing money away, because when you own a property, the money that you pay, of course, you're gonna, some of it's gonna go to interest, but you're really just paying yourself because you're building equity in that property. And now equity is just, basically something you could tap into later on to, either do a cash out refinance or a HELOC. And I'm not gonna go into details about that, but really you could just use that money to take it out and purchase another property, do another investment, right? And then eventually just purchase multiple properties and rent them out, which is the long-term goal for myself, right? So that's something you don't get with renting. That's something that you only get with owning property. So definitely I recommend that. And then also, there's so many factors that a lot of individuals overlook. Everyone only kind of looks at, appreciation of the property, of it going up, which is great. Because in, 1 year of purchasing my property, it did go up, about $20,000. So that's just an additional $20,000 in equity that I can tap into later on. So definitely use to purchase my, another property, right? I'm not going to do that right now. But something that I could definitely build on to do in the future, right? And then on top of that, on top of just the appreciation, there's also the tax benefit. There's the depreciation, that you can write off with the actual physical, property above the land. So even if the property is going up in value, you could still get the tax benefit of depreciation. And then on top of that, there's cash flow, right? Which is, amazing, because especially in the area that I purchased my first property is one of the highest areas where rents are increasing, where, if you're renting, you're just subjected to pay whatever the rent is, no matter, and pretty much rents increase almost every year, every 3 years, unless you're lucky and you have a landlord who doesn't do that. But for the most part, rents are always increasing. And so if you have a job or whatever you do to produce income, you're fighting off so many different variables. For example, you're already fighting off inflation, where every year, about on average 3% you're fighting with inflation. Your dollar, the dollars that you have in your bank account are worth less every single year, which is why you want to invest, right? You want to fight inflation. And then on top of that, rent is just going up. So if you're just having your job and, your money's getting less and less valuable each year, and your rent's going higher and higher and higher, it's kind of like you're in a losing battle, versus when you're, purchasing a property. And let's say if you're not even looking into the investing aspect, just the saving aspect is amazing, because, you could lock in, 15 years, 30 years, whatever type of loan you do. And obviously there's different loans where the interest rate may change, but for the majority of loans, the interest rate is going to pretty much stay the same. And so you're locking in this payment that you're going to do that's fixed for the next, a decade or 2 decades, right? And so, I have some neighbors who, their mortgage is pretty much like $600 because they purchased this property, back in early 2000s, right? And you're not going to see that in rent. I mean, you never see rents go down. Seeing rents like $300, unless you live in like, the middle of nowhere or in a really like unsuitable neighborhood, rents are not going down to $300 like they used to be in the 1970s or something like that, right? They're continuously going up. And so even if you're not interested in investing in real estate, and trying to build up a portfolio in real estate, you're still saving on the aspect that, while everyone else who's paying rent is getting their rent increase and increase and increase and losing, their spending power, you're locked into this fixed mortgage. So definitely another aspect that I think a lot of individuals overlook. So again, it's not something that it's easy to do. I definitely understand that with real estate, there's a lot of barriers, right? There's the whole debt to income ratio, right? There's the whole capital requirement. And then there's also the whole, credit score requirement. And I definitely think for individuals who are young, it's also, it's really difficult for them, especially if they're in college or just freshly out of college, because, in college you have no money. Fresh out of college, now you get decent money, but it's still, you're kind of on an entry level. So, capital requirement isn't there. And then also for a lot of individuals who are young, their credit score necessarily isn't built. Luckily, I, got my first credit card at a very young age at a store, and I was just building credit, and, I put a lot of things in my name. So, but for a majority of people, having a solid credit score at, 20 is not something that's, common, unfortunately, right? Because people don't really preach financial literacy as they should. And then on top of that, the debt to income ratio, when you're young, you definitely make a lot of mistakes. You load up on your credit cards, you have car debt, you have student loans. I mean, there's so many different, areas where as a young individual, you're kind of put into this, crippling pile of debt. So I definitely understand the barriers, but, at the end of the day, nothing, worth it comes easy, right? And so it's definitely something you should work towards. I remember when I was 24, I actually made a video and I talked about how my goal was for 2020 to purchase my first property. One of my personal goals for 2020 is to buy my first house. You know, goal is not something that you're always gonna absolutely hit. It's something you could work towards. And you know, buying my first property in 2020, I actually didn't reach it. I closed on the first month of 2021. So I missed my goal, but the whole point of setting a goal is really just having something that you're working towards. So, you know, if your goal is to purchase your first property, you know, maybe you may not hit it in the next year, but, you know, work on whatever you have to do to, you know, finally, you know, have success in that goal. Work on your credit score, save up your capital, pay off your debt, you know, do the things that you need to do so that you could honestly achieve that goal. Now, you know, at the end of the day, some individuals may disagree. So let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on home ownership. Do you think it's still better to rent, although, you know, provided my reasons? I'd love to have that debate, because I honestly think that, you know, buying a property is probably one of my best investments. And you guys know that I trade, I do stocks, I do cryptos, and honestly, buying a property was one of my best investments I ever did, because I did nearly almost 100% within the first year, and honestly, it just got started. We're not going to even look into what I'm going to make on cash flow when I rent out this property. And by the way, I live in an area where it's the highest rent in Orlando, so you can imagine, it's just one of the best things I've done as far as investing wise goes. And I just wanted to share my experience with that, because on YouTube I saw a lot of individuals have an opposed opinion. But again, I'm not going to carry this video on too long. I wanted to make it short, sweet, and concise. So definitely leave that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and comment, and I'll see you guys on the next video.